What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the stream. So, I hope everything is in order. I think we're good. Let me just double check because I haven't been live in quite some time. First live stream in a while, and I guess now would be a good occasion for it. So guys, let me know in the chat right now. Can you hear me? Is it all good? Are the levels good? Are we good to go? Then we'll get started. Smash the like button while you guys are at it as well. Have a little bit of a different setup, so just set up the live stream for the first time in a while. So I see all good, awesome. Okay, so the reason why I went live right now, obviously because Bitcoin's dropping. It was more so because I saw a lot of people really like misunderstanding what's going on, because we have a lot of news right now, a lot of interesting things, including the fact that now there's news that Elon Musk's SpaceX sold 373 million worth of Bitcoin, which is not, I'm pretty sure this is not the reason for the dump. This news came out after the dump, and I'm willing to bet that they did not sell 373 million on the open market today, and then that's why we dumped. So a lot of people are already misunderstanding this dump, thinking that this is the reason, or that there's like one single reason why. But there's a lot of things to understand. First of all, we had actually more than this, over $800 million liquidated from the crypto market in like an hour, right? So if we go to the liquidation charts, check this out, guys. The top right, you can see the numbers there. $815 million liquidated from all of these assets, Bitcoin, Ethereum, this list right here, which is basically most of the coins. So we can go to just Bitcoin. You can see we have a little bit different, 356 million liquidated, but in total, I mean, that's pretty big, 820 million. And what we saw was, a break of the trend. Now, of course, just the other day, everyone was arguing over whether the trend line was broken. Linear scale, log scale. This is linear scale. Let me go to log scale. You can see that we broke it actually much earlier up here. So log scale looks a lot worse, but no matter how you spin it, even linear scale, we did have a major break of the trend. And you can see that we have horizontal lows now. So what we have is essentially like completely sideways price action since March. Since March, guys, the price has effectively done nothing. So we've had a lot of volatility, but no significant change in price. Just a lot of sideways. And a lot of people got liquidated, caught off guard here because, people were probably, you guys remember, a lot of people were really skeptical of Bitcoin down here. I mean, nobody thought that we were going to go up after the FTX collapse right here. Once we came back and we cleared that price, people were still skeptical, and then the banking debacle, the bank run happened right here, and then everyone got bullish again. And so everyone's buying and accumulating, and now boom, huge liquidations, $800 million. Now, what is this time frame? I think this is like, doesn't really matter. I think it's at least 12 hours or less, whatever. So that's huge. That is huge. A lot of people just caught off guard. Again, no significant change of price, breakdown. So this is definitely pretty devastating for a lot of people that came in late. Though if you guys have been watching this channel, we were getting very bullish on Bitcoin on this run up. There were a lot of reasons to believe that we were going to have a major breakout. One of them being the RSI back at that low had a huge breakout. Multi-year RSI downtrend broken. That was one of the biggest signals for the start of the run. Now when it comes to the RSI, we're in a different spot, kind of interesting here. If you look at the RSI, horizontal, this is the support that the RSI support. Here, let me just make the RSI a different color so you guys can see. It's white. Okay, so we break out. We clear the FTX collapse zone. Then we should start building support on the, you can call it 52 level on the RSI. And that was the exact zone of support the entire time until today. We broke it. I mean, a lot of times we just want to like ignore these things. Like, no, like we don't want to like admit that there's a bearish signal, but there is. I mean, we broke the RSI support line. That's bearish. you broke the trend line on log scale and linear scale, that is bearish. I mean, if you're a technical analyst, you can't ignore these things. You kind of just have to take it for what it is. What does this really mean? It means that we probably are going to have a slowdown in momentum. Now, again, a lot of people are misunderstanding this dump. They're blaming Elon and SpaceX, though they sold this a while ago. They didn't sell this today. The news came out after the dump. After we dumped, this came out. So this had nothing to do with it. One of the things that I talk about is that the S&P, and honestly, you guys really have to listen to me on this one. I know a lot of people always disagree with this, but there is such a strong correlation between Bitcoin and the stock market. And this is very characteristic of a bear market where Bitcoin doesn't really take the upside, but it takes the downside on the S&P very easily, very easily. And guys, this is exactly what we discussed in my video from a couple weeks ago the day we broke this trend line for the S&P. I'm going to pull this video up and I'm going to play it if I can, just like a couple seconds of this video. This was 2 weeks ago. Listen to what I said in this video because it's important to understand this. Is starting to slow down for the S&P. So of course, nothing is guaranteed, nothing is certain, but this does point to potentially the bearish momentum picking up for the stock market. And if that does actually occur, where we see continued downside, it may mean that Bitcoin would actually look to break down as well. That is a possibility that we discussed recently. We actually talked. So that was from the video from 2 weeks ago, where we were talking about really exactly this scenario. And why did we think this was a possibility? It wasn't like I totally called it, but I said, if the S&P breaks this trend and we get downside momentum, Bitcoin is going to do this. Talked about it 2 weeks ago. And this is exactly what the chart looks like right now. And that was based off a correlation analysis between Bitcoin and the stock market. So I've studied the correlation for years, many, many years. And this was exactly what my correlation study and analysis led me to believe just 2 weeks ago. And so why is that? Well, it's just because when Bitcoin is in a bear market, it takes the upside signals less from the S&P and it takes the downside signals stronger from the S&P, especially when there's less interest in crypto. Right now, you may have noticed less interest, really boring. I mean, it's just like altcoins aren't doing anything and Bitcoin's just going sideways. Of course, there have been some low cap coins that have been running, which some of my Patreon members have been trading. None of the coins that I really picked, some coins that they were looking at, though I was trading some low caps recently, but that was before this dump. And so it's just the correlation, guys. And so, we talked about this in the video where the Bitcoin holds support in 2018 until the stock market crashes and then Bitcoin follows. Same exact thing right now, guys. Bitcoin holds support until S&P comes down. You see, it takes the downside, but it doesn't take the upside. That's how it works in a bear market. And Bitcoin has been seeing some, SEC war, been at war with the SEC recently. So yeah, I mean, it's not going to get all that much interest. Low interest, bad news, not really the best. Guys, this channel is now sponsored by Kraken Pro. Unfortunately, CryptoWatch may not be around much longer. We'll see. But Kraken Pro is the people who built CryptoWatch. So you guys can use the link below. Sign up for Kraken Pro. They've changed everything. Kraken has changed everything about their interface. Their altcoin liquidity has exceeded Coinbase in some instances. So definitely check out Kraken Pro. Click that link below and sign up and support the sponsor of this channel. So yeah, guys, this is just what I think right now is, it's just stock market. The stock market is really the main reason. And, we proved it. We called it 2 weeks ago. So that is what I wanted to clear up. Again, everyone just thinks it's because Elon Musk and SpaceX sold Bitcoin. And this is what I posted on Twitter the other day. Bitcoin is nearly about to cross below the primary uptrend line that started in 2023. Stock market coming down. VIX went up 11%. Michael Burry took a big short. Guys, what do you think about Michael Burry's new big short? I don't know what to think, but I guess it's starting off pretty decently for him. I think he put in a very large portion of his portfolio, or maybe it was like a couple million on leverage or something like that, if I remember correctly. But I guess he started at the right point for this one. We'll see. What else did we get, guys? We also got news that this all came today. Let me try to remember what it was. Evergrande? I think it was Evergrande. Over here, look at all my comments. And I was making fun of Jim Cramer because we had the news now that the Chinese property giant Evergrande filed for bankruptcy. And we see that China's economy is starting to slow down. We see that the US economy is also starting to slow down. And Jim Cramer, just a couple weeks ago, you guys remember that meme I made about Jim Cramer saying that the recession was unlikely, and then there was a basketball player, I think it was LeBron James, like gets up and leaves. That meme, I made that right after Jim Cramer said this, and kind of hilarious how he said that right at the top. And so now we see economies around the world are slowing down, stock market's coming down right when Jim Cramer said that the recession was unlikely. How likely is a recession? I don't know. The Fed yesterday for the minutes meeting, the Fed said that we shouldn't be afraid of a recession, or that it's not likely. But they also told us that, inflation was transitory. So yesterday when the Fed said a recession is unlikely, I kind of sat back and I was like, is that really what you think, or are you just telling us to not expect one? Because they're always trying to manipulate the public perception. They're manipulating people into thinking that inflation's coming down, or that it's not going to happen like a couple of years ago. And now they're saying the recession's not likely. And I was sitting there like, what does that really mean? Does that mean a recession is likely, but they don't want us to expect it? I don't know. But we have a lot of things coming together right now. And slowly we're starting to see the economy slow down for China and the US. And one of the biggest themes I've been seeing on Twitter is people complaining about cost of living, especially in Canada. And then also in the US, inflation's coming down. Let's pull up the inflation chart. Inflation's coming down. Whoops, I spelled it wrong. The inflation rate. Whoops, wrong chart again. Hold on. There it is. So inflation's coming down, but the cost of things are not necessarily coming down. I mean, when I go to the grocery store, everything's pretty much the same. I guess it takes time. But we also see that the inflation rate hit a low point and then ticked up. So yesterday, the Fed, let me bring up the federal funds rate now. The Fed said that there is actually still a big risk of inflation. Let me just make the inflation rate red. And so they're saying that the inflation rate has a risk of continuing to remain high. So they are saying that we may actually get more hikes, etc. So that is something to consider, that they think that the risk of inflation, coming back, remaining steady or persistent, I should say, is high. So we had the rates, near a pause, I think. 2 Fed members argued for a rate pause last month. Getting a call. 2 Fed members argued for a pause, but Jerome Powell is saying the risk is still high that we go up. So, I mean, it's a tough call. Back in 2019, when the rates basically went flat, when we paused, we had a recovery. But the thing about that pause was that, generally speaking, we were not in this type of situation. The purple line is the S&P now. The inflation rate is orange. Sorry, the inflation rate is red. The Fed funds rate is orange. Rates pause, S&P and Bitcoin both rebound. The thing about that is that we had, generally speaking, a pretty good economy. There wasn't all that many issues as there is right now. And so I'm not really sure that we're going to pause and then the markets just rally. Because another thing to consider is that the Fed paused interest rates at the low. So S&P comes down, Bitcoin comes down, they hit a low, and then the rates paused right there on the low, on the lowest low. That was enough, reason for people to speculate on the markets in a bullish way. Now, we are not in that situation. First of all, we have inflation, being very volatile, and the Fed is saying that the risk of inflation staying persistent is a very high chance. So not only are we not on the downside, we're actually on the upside. We're not at a low, we're at a high. The S&P just reclaimed like 80% of the bear market. It's all the way up here. Bitcoin just bounced off the low. If we get a pause here, I don't know if I could really just say, oh, it happened here, so it's going to happen again. Not necessarily the case, guys. It's a little bit different now. We're just in a different circumstance. So, one thing we talked about at the beginning of this year, another reason that we had to be bullish, we were bullish on Bitcoin at the beginning of the year. If you go back to those videos in January, we were looking for a major run into the first 6 months of the year, which is what we've gotten. That is what we talked about in the beginning of the year. And another reason why was because we were talking about how the inflation rate had peaked, right? And was coming down into the beginning of the year. And then also we were already seeing interest rates at a higher level. And what the market did at this point was it was front running a pause. So the market has already sort of priced in a pause, in my opinion. I could be wrong about that, but I think that was the whole reason for this run up, right? Because the Fed is still tightening. Let me see how we can pull that up. I forget what the ticker is. I think it's this one right here. Whoops. Yeah, there it is. So let me just make this green so we know what this is. This is the balance sheet. The chart is going to get a little bit cluttered here. But yeah, the Fed is still tightening. So that's another thing. That's another thing to be cautious about. And so, when the Fed was tightening in 2018, we came down. This run was based off of the Fed pausing. But again, we were at a low point at that time. The market was already down. But now what we're seeing is the Fed balance sheet hitting the lowest levels since August of 2021. Yeah. Still tightening, going into a pause, and markets have already rallied in anticipation of the pause. So it's a lot different. And another thing to remember that we discussed is the QE that was taking place over in 2014 had a lasting effect on the market here. QE is like inflation. It's like when you pour water into a lake, the ripples go out, and then they hit the shore later. That's how inflation works. When you pour a bunch of money into the system, it takes time for the inflation to hit the shore. Same thing with QE. We had QE, then the balance sheet, QE in 2014, then the balance sheet goes flat, and then markets go up. We had a tech boom. We had a really good economy. We had regrowth after 2008 taking place. Everything's recovering. We removed the federal funds rate. So the QE from 2014, lasting effect. Now, we had massive QE in response to COVID with a shutdown, but now we have QT. The QT, is that going to have a lasting effect, a lasting downside pressure? Depends. If the Fed flips back into QE, well, things might be different, but it all affects the market. And people like to think Bitcoin has no correlation at all to anything. And we just proved that this analysis from 2 weeks ago, we were calling this exact move for Bitcoin. But if the S&P had fallen, which it did. Sorry, I've been ignoring the chat. I hope you guys enjoyed this so far. Smash the like button. Let me see what the chat has said. I haven't read chat at all. Smash the like button, guys. And subscribe to this channel if you're new. I know there's a lot of stuff. We're talking about a lot of complex things, but guys, that is like a lot of factors. I mean, the chart was really cluttered right there. We just had like a bunch of stuff, but this is kind of what it is right now. There's just so many macro factors taking place that you kind of got to pay attention to all of it. It's not always this complicated, but right now it is this complicated. Sometimes things are simple. Sometimes things are just going well, like 2017. Bitcoin, the stock market, things were so simple here. It was just like economic recovery. Everything's fine. Everything's smooth. You know, the Fed is raising rates, but at a predictable pace. No one was worried. Everyone thought, okay, the Fed's got it under control. That is a whole different ball game than now. This is the highest rate hike in U.S. history, and people are not really sure like what to expect. It was like a curveball. Back here, it was so predictable, totally different. You can't really look at this area and say it's going to happen again here. It's really not the case. Let's see. Guys, make sure you smash the like. Just going to check the chat on my phone here. Someone said low volume. Kevin has gone live. Robert, what's up? Yes, guys, I see a lot of familiar faces in the chat, and I am live once again for the first time in a while. So that RSI play is pretty interesting. Well, I'll look at the chat. Just take a look at this. Remove the RSI MA. This bull market began on the breakout of the multi-year RSI down trend line, and then we had RSI support, and now we're breaking that RSI support. Look at that. Symbol MS says weekly volume isn't that much. We can check that out in a second. Alex S says 153 days of boring. Yeah, I mean, if altcoins were running during all this time, if they were really like running, it would have been a lot more entertaining. But, you know, I think it's just Fed tightening, interest rates super high, liquidity is expensive, money is not cheap. It's just a lot different than it was. SAS Finance is excellent call. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, guys, it wasn't really like a call. I was basically just saying, this was 2 weeks ago, this chart that I drew on this video. This is the video called Downside Possible as S&P Breaks Down. This video, we were talking about the chart ending up looking like that, which is where it is now, if the S&P had pulled back, which it did. The correlation is very much important to look at. People ignore it. It's like, okay, I mean, you're going to miss this type of stuff. Aaron J says, what do you mean it doesn't take the upside? We went up 110%, mate. Right. So, yes, I mean, 100% for Bitcoin is not really that impressive. It's not really all that amazing. What I was saying was that when the in a bearish trend, Bitcoin doesn't take the upside signals as much from the S&P. Like when you're in a macro bear trend, macro down, and it's not necessarily risk on per se for a lot of speculators. Though in the end, that right here, a lot of speculators stepped in. People got really bullish at the top of that S&P run, which got me really skeptical. But yeah, I mean, of course, Bitcoin went from 15 to 30. Okay, I mean, that's not really that crazy. We're still way below. You know, we didn't even do as well as the S&P in terms of the percentage recovery. Like, if you look at from the high, Bitcoin was down 53% from the market high to where we hit, about 54%. The S&P from its market high to that low there, it's only down 4.5%. So Bitcoin, you know, didn't really take the upside as much as the S&P, you know, sort of showed, or it doesn't take the upside signals in that environment. In this environment, it just doesn't happen, right? It's the same thing with 2018. I mean, we've talked about this enough, but it just, when it doesn't take the upside in the bear market, but when the S&P shows the bearish momentum, Bitcoin snaps into correlation. That's just how it is. I know it's a little complicated, but that's really how it works, and that's what happened today. Let's see. There's a lot of people in chat. Michael Blast, what's up? See a lot of familiar faces. I appreciate all you guys tuning in to the first live stream in many months. I mean, it might even been 6 months, guys. So definitely smash the like. There was just a lot of things to say, and it's hard to say it all in a video. Guys, when I make my YouTube videos, I always try to make them nice and short and sweet, like no more than 10 minutes, sometimes 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, because I don't think it's really nice to make your viewers sit through 20, 30 minutes of an analysis. I mean, nobody wants to do that. So I take time to edit them, chop them up really nice and tight, quick. So that's, you know, that's what those videos are for. Live streams, we kind of just take our time and hang out. Just going through chat. Aaron J says, everyone knows there's a positive correlation. I mean, it is over time increasing, but there's still a huge debate. I get comments all the time of people who are like, I'm not going to watch your videos if you say Bitcoin and the stock market are correlated. And honestly, I don't want those viewers anyway. They can just leave if they want. But I get those type of things all the time. It's so stupid. Okay. Let's see. People are saying, look at certain altcoins. Sorry, I missed all the chat. Just checking it out. Yeah, I guess really what people want to know now is like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? So let's look at Bitcoin again. Take away the S&P. And here's a couple things. I mean, we talked, you know, again, if you're watching this live stream and you already watched my videos today, you might hear me repeat myself a little bit. But looking at Bitcoin's RSI, key breakdown now. So breaking RSI support structure, not the greatest sign. You know, if the S&P continues to give us bearish momentum, then it's going to be difficult for Bitcoin to, you know, pick back up support and just recover straight back up, right? It's going to be difficult. So you might see, let's say this, you might see the S&P bounce up and retrace higher and then come down later. You know, you might even see, I mean, who knows, right? The market is so unpredictable. Maybe the S&P bounces up to a new high and then comes down afterward, right? So in like that type of volatility is always possible. And so what you could see at that point would be Bitcoin showing up some sort of decrease in momentum. You know, maybe we bounce up. I mean, one thing to always remember is that when you break a trend line, the momentum gets shot, sentiment gets shot, confidence gets shot, and the bearish pressure begins to build. That's why key levels are so important to keep an eye on. It's not just like random things. You break the trend line, all right, here we go. Momentum's going to start picking up to the downside. People are going to become unconfident and are going to be consider selling bounces. So if the S&P gives us a bounce up and then comes down again, Bitcoin may end up looking like it's recovering. People are going to say, oh, look, recovery. But then it's just like a head and shoulders or something like that, right? A decrease in momentum. That's what a head and shoulders actually means. A higher high, lower high, right? So something like that maybe. I mean, that is a possibility right now because, again, we've broken the trend. But this is also not uncommon. It's not uncommon to see this in a mid-cycle zone. When you're in between cycles where you have the halving, bull market, major bear market, and especially when the Fed starts tightening, right? That's a lot of times the cycles are separated between QE and QT on the Fed balance sheet very often, right? And you can see that in the past. Fed balance sheet, you know, bear market, Fed's tightening here, right? Bear market, Fed's tightening. It makes a difference. It makes a huge difference when the Fed's tightening or not tightening. All these things are real factors that you have to pay attention to. So seeing this type of thing where, you know, I mean, one of the key levels, sorry, let me finish my thought. Seeing that type of sideways action before the halving is not uncommon at all. I mean, it's a really good opportunity. It's a fantastic opportunity. I mean, a lot of people were really upset that, you know, everyone was bearish down here and they missed the run. And of course, they probably FOMO in higher and then now they're upset when we go down. But really, you just got to take it, you know, for what it is. If we do come down to a little bit of a lower level, just accumulate. I mean, it's a mid-cycle pullback. The only thing you do at this time in a cycle is just DCA. You just buy and you just wait. You just wait till we have the halving and you just wait till we hit the all-time highs. That's at least how Bitcoin long-term holders do it. So, I mean, if you're a long-term holder, none of this is a problem right now. None of this is an issue. Seeing a little bit lower levels, I mean, that's great. Just buy. Like, there's really not a problem. This is just classic Bitcoin action, and it doesn't even matter in the long run. It really means nothing. So that's another thing. If you're really scared right now, don't be afraid. I mean, unless you're doing high risk trading or something, I mean, I would not be afraid of this price action. After a bear market, every dip is a buy, guys. Every dip is just a buy. So if we dip again, what is it? It's just a buy. You know, it's like, who cares? Don't be afraid of it. Just take advantage of it, right? Instead of just panicking, just do something about it and buy more. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, though. Bears are always the loudest at the bottoms, says Gen X Crypto. Yes, they are. And also bulls are always loudest at the top. Bears are loudest at the bottom. And that's kind of a funny thing. You guys remember at the lows for Bitcoin, you guys remember how loud the bears were? We actually had record bearish speculation for the stock market and Bitcoin at the bottom. It was like record retail bearish speculation ever. For stock market at least. And then we bounce. Because at the bottom, you know, all the banks were saying like, oh, recession. And then we bounced right up. And then they start saying, oh, no recession. And then we dump. And then watch, the next low, it'll be like recession. And then we bounce. I mean, it's such a like a clown show. The news and like these analysts, what a clown show. In the stock market, that is. I don't trust any of those headlines. They always say everything's terrible at the bottom, everything's great at the top. I would be very surprised if the S&P just hits a new all-time high from here. I'd be very surprised, especially as the Fed is still tightening. I should say this. If the S&P were to rebound from here and create a new all-time high, let me remove Bitcoin. It would likely be something like 60s to the 80s, maybe, where like we have, all right, so S&P comes up, you know, pull back. Let's say we do bounce up. Depending on what the Fed's doing, if they're doing QE, QT still, I mean, we probably would retrace back into the zone and maybe even see a lower low, like a broadening wedge. These broadening wedge type patterns for the stock market are so common. So if a higher high would probably be met with a retrace back into the range. You know, that's the kind of thing that we see a lot for the stock market. And, even here with COVID, you saw the broadening wedge type stuff. Even in a way from 2001 to 2015, it was like broadening at the bottom. Very common price action, especially like 60s to the 80s. This exact type of broadening thing. I mean, these are always decade-long ranges, but this happens a lot in the stock market. So seeing something like that, if inflation remains persistent, if rates remain somewhat higher, then this is what I would be looking for the stock market. And what does that mean for Bitcoin? Well, hold on, I gotta make sure that this is also on log. What does that mean for Bitcoin? Well, it could just mean that, you know, Bitcoin's overall cycles get a little tighter. I mean, we are at a higher market cap, but like we see like a new all-time high, maybe retrace into it again, build back out all-time high, and we just see a little bit of a tighter logarithmic sort of formation. Generally speaking, that's kind of what everyone expects anyway as the market cap for Bitcoin gets higher. There's other opportunities in the market as well. Bitcoin is still the best. It's still faster than investing in index stocks, better percentage, and there's obviously tons of benefits, such as not having to worry about bank runs. If you store your wealth in Bitcoin, a lot of benefits for that. Right now, the banking industry seems to be one of the biggest threats or ticking time bombs in a way. The banking industry. I really hope that the correlation for Bitcoin and the stock market decreases. I really do. Right now, it's not necessarily decreased at all. But I hope that the narrative for Bitcoin picks up in a way that people really start to value Bitcoin for being, better than a bank account. Sal says good buy time for the long term. Yeah, guys. I mean, I need to change this chart and go to something different. BLX. Oh God. Wow, this is my Fed. I forgot I had this here. This is my Fed analysis. Wow, I should have had this prepared. Did you guys see that all just pop up? Can I actually salvage this right now? Because that would be so cool if I could just make it all work. I think I might be able to. Wow, that is a lot of stuff. Hold on, let me pull up the Fed balance sheet. Fed balance sheet, there it is. Oh man, this is gonna be difficult. Can we make it work? Oh boy. I don't want to spend too much time getting this right. Whatever, we'll just go with what's here. So this was the entire chart I made for my Fed balance sheet versus Bitcoin video. I'm going to try to make it look somewhat presentable right here. I didn't even mean to bring this up, but it's all here now. This is interesting. Okay, so when you look at it like this, let me color the, all right, I guess we're just going to go with this, guys. We're going to bring up the area line, area chart. This green line is going to be the Fed balance sheet. And then we also have, of course, like the federal funds rates. Man, this might be a little too difficult, but it is what it is. A couple things I need to remove here. But anyway, yeah, guys, I mean, for Bitcoin in this part of the cycle, you have a bull market, bear market, and especially like the Fed's tightening in 2018, buying those lows. Right now, what is the Fed doing? Tightening the green line. Bitcoin's at a lower price. I mean, if the market dumps more, then yeah, I mean, it's definitely time to be buying. It really just depends on how things play out overall. Inflation, right? Inflation, how persistent is inflation really going to be? Because that's going to be a huge factor in what the Fed actually does. And so right now what we saw, which we hadn't seen when I made this chart originally, was that we had an uptick in the inflation rate. So if we see inflation remain persistent, then the Fed may leave rates higher for longer, or pause but leave them higher, and we may pause for longer than expected before coming down. And another thing to remember is that the funds rate is also on the first higher high trajectory since the 60s to the 80s. So here's the S&P, but here's the federal funds rate. Higher highs from the 60s to the 80s. And we've had lower highs all the way from the 80s until even 2020, guys, or 2019. Lower highs from 1980 to 2019. All right, we just had our first higher high since the 80s, guys. First higher high on the interest rate level since the 80s. That's interesting, and that's completely different than what we've seen before for most of our lifetimes, at least mine, right? I was born in the 90s, not the 80s. So I've never seen higher highs on interest rates. And a lot of you haven't. Some of you might have been there for this. A lot of you probably were very young for that and don't remember. But, in an area where interest rates are moving up, stock market's flat. But the good thing about this zone was that even though the stock market was flat from the 60s to the 80s, and it's possible that the stock market remains sort of flat here as well with huge volatility, for quite some time before kicking off again, is that the best investments ever happened like over here. All the big companies that are top today, number one today, that was the opportunity zone. And if we enter a sideways range like that, where the economy is going through a transformation, we're also going to be in an area of the best opportunities possible, and you can position yourself before the next major bull market. Even if we have a flat market, there's a lot of opportunity. A lot of stocks won't be flat. The indexes will. But we have AI, things like AI, biotechnology. AI and biotech are going to be the biggest industries ever. And those are the things we can invest in now. We're at the ground floor for a lot of them. So that's another opportunity besides crypto to consider. Well, let me see what's going on here with the chat real quick. Guys, what do we have, like 500 people watching? Definitely smash the like, subscribe if you're new here. Sapien says, sideways market until robots take over. That's hilarious. Maybe. Though for Bitcoin, I mean, we have a lot of great things going for it here. Even if the indexes for the stock market go sideways, I think that Bitcoin's going to see a lot of growth because it's still so untouched. Actually, this is a great point for this. So for Bitcoin, in terms of the phases, right? If you guys can see this chart clearly, where we are right now from 2021, right? This is like 2021, or you can see COVID right there, 2020 and on. The discovery phase for Bitcoin is done, right? The discovery phase is over. Everybody knows Bitcoin now. This is when I first heard about Bitcoin, right? Back here in this time period. Then it goes to mass adoption. Mass adoption, and this is, when I say mass adoption, I don't mean that mass adoption peaked in 2017. It was the initiation, it was the key going into the engine and starting. 2017 was initiation of mass adoption. The engine started, mass adoption kicks off, we hit the news. We get CME launched for Bitcoin futures at the top. Everyone hears the first real shockwave for Bitcoin hits the world. Mass adoption begins. Then it goes into the institutional phase. Now, while the discovery phase is over, just because the institutional phase has begun doesn't mean mass adoption isn't over. Mass adoption still has a check mark. It's still ongoing, right? People are still hearing about Bitcoin, buying Bitcoin for the first time, et cetera, et cetera. And now we have the continuation of mass adoption, which is the institutional phase. MicroStrategy was really the first like big news for institutional adoption. Of course, there was some already. I mean, we had CME, right? But that was like the institutional kickstart. MicroStrategy, huge news there. And that was like the big news story for the initiation of institutional phase. And then we have BlackRock now. So the institutional phase is still ongoing, and institutional phase is sort of a part of the mass adoption phase, but the discovery phase is done. Maybe at some point I'll be able to say mass adoption is done, and we are all, Bitcoin's just everywhere, all over the place, fully integrated, fully understood, no more Gary Gensler SEC bullcrap, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe at some point. Guys, let me know in the chat, where are you tuning in from? Type in the chat below, where are you tuning in from? I want to know. And also smash the like if you're just joining. Flat Smack says, bears are poor for a reason. Well, depends on what kind of bear you are. I mean, if you're like Michael Burry and you short at all the right times, maybe. I mean, I don't know. Michael Burry has also been very, very wrong in the past few years. But there are a couple good bears out there. Very few, though. Very few. The bull wins in the end, guys. The bull wins in the end. The thing about the bear, the thing that's nice about the bear, about if you're playing as a bear, one thing to remember is that like the bull is a conspiratorial animal. It works together in a herd and like builds these uptrends. Optimism, confidence, slowly being constructive. That's the emotion of the bull. The bull. Optimism working together as a herd. The bear kind of just swipes in and is really quick. So if you're really good at being a bear, you can get some really good trades in a very short period of time, because fear is a quick emotion, but optimism is like building. It's very different. So you got to play it differently. The bear knows his time is limited. That's why he goes into hibernation, right? If you're just a polar bear, you're poor, right? There's a difference between being a bear and a polar bear. Polar bears are perpetually poor because they're always bears. But a normal bear will hibernate and come back. That's like the difference. I wanted to put it like visually for you guys. Guys, I mean, this is all just an accumulation point. Every time you have a bull and then bear, anywhere below that, once you've hit a low point, even if you're going to hit a low, or even if you're going to hit a slightly lower low, I mean, it's all just accumulation. Even here. Like, if you're kind of new, just like separate a long-term portfolio and a trading portfolio. Just make the differentiation and make a decision and decide this is for the long term, this is for trading, and separate and make a decision. Don't be reactionary, because I know a lot of new people, reactionary, just like they don't know, they think they're buying it for the long term, then they sell, and then they don't know what they're doing. Just make a distinction and a decision between what is what. It'll help you out a lot. Crypto, let's see, crypto, that weekly RSI is actually 4 drives of hidden bullish divergence. Zoom in. Well, I'm not sure which one do you mean. I don't want to mess up that chart now that we have it up. I guess, are you talking about the weekly? Let's go to the weekly and then go look at the RSI. RSI. We were talking about. Are you talking about this right here? Yeah, but my point is, I'm just responding to somebody in the comments. My point is, we broke the RSI support. Right? I mean, that was clearly like part of the uptrend. Part of the uptrend and the structure was this RSI support. And you can see, like, it's pretty clear, like we maintained a perfect uptrend with perfect horizontal support on the RSI on the weekly until when? Until we broke the trend line and we broke the RSI on the same day. Same week, I guess, because it's a weekly chart. So it's not like you can't really ignore that. I wouldn't ignore that. It's pretty important. What else? I mean, there's probably other examples of this. Here's like a successful one. Here's like a successful example is like you hold this RSI support right here, and then you pivot up, and we're like holding, a slightly higher low. I mean, here we've kind of failed it. So, I mean, all that I really expect, again, there's a lot of people that are like super optimistic or super doomsday. I'm neither, guys. I'm really not either of them. There are some people that are going to tell you, all-time highs soon. And then there's some people that are going to say 3K next or 10K next. I mean, how the hell do they know that? Like, how do they know what the Fed's going to do? When they're going to pause rates? When are they going to flip to QE? Like, when are they going to end QT? There's so many things that the bears just like don't even mention. They're just like, this is going to happen. And it's like, okay, man, like, good luck with that prediction. So these super bull and super bear predictions are usually never right. Only, of course, after a huge bull run or a huge bear run. But when you're sort of in the middle of the range, like, one thing to remember about Bitcoin that sometimes it's easy to forget this, and that is that a lot of times there's no significant change in price even after years. Yes, there's high volatility where the price changes significantly, but ultimately there's no significant change in price. For example, from November 2017 to the halving in 2020, from here to here, there was no significant change in price. There was high volatility, but ultimately nothing really happened. We hit the same price over and over and over with high volatility. That's a lot of times how it works. And if you're not in the market for a few weeks, you miss the whole thing. You miss all the growth, right? Like back here for Bitcoin, like if you're not in the market for like from like here to, you know, here or whatever, if you're not in for this and you're a long-term holder, you've missed it all. This is all that had happened from this point to this point. So you have to be in the market the whole time. You can't try to time it too much if you're a long-term holder. I mean, if you could have just missed. I mean, technically you didn't miss anything from here to our bear market low. We actually went into it. But you see what I mean? If you miss that move, like you miss a lot of stuff. So the important thing is to just accumulate and don't miss out on that big leg up that eventually takes place. So 2020 to 2021, same thing. High volatility, no significant change in price. This happens constantly. And like even here, like maybe from like, June of 2022, maybe there's no significant change in price for quite some time. That's kind of like that's just what happens a lot of times. It's kind of what, if you're looking at a big picture, that's kind of what you should be expecting for these ranges. But let's see what chat's saying. Shatoshi Love says, thank you for the live stream. Thank you for tuning in, guys. Be sure to smash the like and subscribe if you're new. Subscribe if you're enjoying this kind of content. Kind of just having a casual conversation with you guys. I was just looking at the RSI. We talked about this. This was another reason we were bullish in January of this year. This is a huge signal. The break of that RSI downtrend line. Just reading chat. I'm just going to read chat on my phone here. Haven't been paying too much attention to chat today. Kind of trying to get back in the swing of it. Haven't done a live stream for half a year, guys. Half a year. Gen X Crypto says, I invested my daughter's school fee payment a couple hours ago at 25K, 25.3. So we have a viewer here that invested his daughter's school payment at 25.3. Wait a minute. Are we at the, am I looking at the wrong thing? Oh, here we go. 25.3, school payment. So you caught the low with your daughter's school payment. Nice. So your daughter's account is up 5% in hours. There you go. Will it last? Who knows? Will she go to school? Who knows? That's funny. I mean, I don't know. Investing school money is kind of a risky move. So another thing to think about is that if we are going to slow down in momentum, do we just have the daily close? We did. All right, so Bitcoin closed. All right, well, we'll talk about that too. But if we do slow down here momentum, we may bounce up where it looks like we have a recovery, but ultimately that sort of momentum shift becomes prevalent before 2024. This wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I've seen worse. This is actually pretty tame for a Bitcoin bear market or a mid-cycle zone. It's kind of what I'm leaning to right now, considering what is on the chart. So we just had the daily close, 26,600, yeah, something like that. Well, not pretty ugly close. Let's go to linear scale. Pretty ugly close. There's no way to cheat this one. There's no way to cheat this chart to make it look good anymore. The only thing you can say that's positive is that we do have a low and a slightly higher low. In terms of the trend, primary trend structure, we're actually above that low. Or we've pretty much just tested it exactly, however you want to look at it. But like I was just saying, guys, what did we get? No significant change in price since March. Bitcoin loves to do that. It loves to go up and down, and do really nothing in the end. So chat is saying it's obviously going to fill CME gap at 20K. It says cool networks. I think I saw your comment on my video. I believe that was you. I do look at the comments on my videos, guys, so I'll see it. CME gap at 20K. What is the exact price? Oh, I could bring it up, but well, who knows? I mean, it really depends. Again, guys, it all depends on what the stock market does, to be honest. I know people hate that, but we were just talking about, I mean, there's people, this is a live stream, so there's people joining and leaving, but we were talking about my video from 2 weeks ago, calling this snap down if the stock market continues downward pressure, which the stock market continued downward pressure today. And what do we get? This. It's all related, guys. It's all related. It's all correlated at the end of the day. Fear and greed is at March 10th levels, says Pete. I lost today, including my grandpa. Well, I'm sorry to hear about that, JB. It's always tough. Gene says a lot of people speak about halving, so we don't need to be bull. Just wait and trade. Well, first of all, JB, prayers to you. That is a very difficult moment. And Gene is saying the halving, so we don't need to. I mean, yeah, guys, this is just the point of, wait and watch. And at this point in the cycle, looking at the total crypto market cap. Wait a minute. Did we get the right thing up here? We did. Wait, hold on. Whoops, wrong one. Wait, actually, we need to bring up the total and exclude Bitcoin and Ethereum, maybe. So, I mean, when it comes to the altcoins, bring this up. I mean, look at this. Look at the altcoin market excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. That is very, very suppressed. Very, very suppressed. Like even in the last one, in the last cycle, the 2019 parabola, we had a significant run for altcoins. I actually thought that something like this was going to happen this time around, but look at this, nothing, almost nothing. Now this is likely from the SEC causing suppression and fear on anything but Bitcoin. I mean, it's very likely. So, we have that suppression from Gary Gensler threatening everything but Bitcoin. And so it's flat, everything except Bitcoin and Ethereum, not much. And something to remember is that when it comes to accumulating in this market, there's a very limited time compared to altcoins to get good accumulation on Bitcoin. Right? There's limited time for Bitcoin. Like it's very scarce to get those low levels. So in a bear market, you got to worry about accumulating Bitcoin and Ethereum before you worry about accumulating altcoins. You'll have all the time in the world. And honestly, when it comes to altcoins, unless you're just trading, like low cap runs here and there, stuff like that, that's fine. But I'm saying accumulating altcoins is not as important. Like, You have time for that. And most likely, by the time the next cycle comes, there's going to be a whole different set of altcoins are here. You know, the altcoins that were popular here were completely different than the altcoins that were popular here. So the altcoins that are popular here, or even now, by the time the halving comes around, 2024, I mean, whatever was popular here will not be popular here. Some of them will. I mean, the technology has gotten better than what it was in 2018. So there's gonna be more longer lasting coins now than there was in 2018 on. More of the coins that are around will stay because, you know, like Uniswap and like the actual utility that exists there was none in 2018, but now there's actual utility for some things, but it's also still very limited. And crypto gaming is just starting to get better. Like that wasn't even ready. Like this bull run, we had crypto gaming coins pumping. There's a couple, but most of the crypto gaming was pretty crap, right? But this upcoming cycle, I'm at least hoping and thinking that crypto gaming will probably do a lot better. The integrations will happen, or people will be able to integrate crypto and gaming easier and better. And guys, you have to also be very skeptical of altcoins in a bull market, because a lot of times what happens is projects rush to release when they know the going is good. Like the going is good, everything's up, everyone's here. They'll just throw crap out there and they'll just say like, oh, this coin's gonna do this and do that. But they're just rushing it out prematurely to capitalize. So the best projects are the ones that are gonna be building and doing really well in the down zones, and then coming out of that fully prepared, fully ready to go, not launching like into the top, stuff like that. Like you gotta be very skeptical of the alts in a bull market. But there's going to be a big narrative shift, I think, between now and the halving. We're going to have the institutional narrative for Bitcoin, BlackRock institutions, and we're probably going to see some integration from big corporations, like maybe Meta or something will try to do like metaverse stuff, crypto maybe. We're probably going to see Elon Musk with Twitter X integrating crypto at some point. So the institutional phase is not just like big money buying Bitcoin, it's also integration from various corporations. And the first corporation to fully integrate crypto into something to make it really useful inside like their app, like a mainstream company, a mainstream app. We haven't really seen that yet. The first one to do that it's probably going to be huge. And that could add a lot of value to Ethereum if it's built on Ethereum, etc. So I know there's a lot of Bitcoin maxis that don't like Ethereum, but I'm pretty certain Ethereum is going to be able to continue to grow. There's a lot of money in Ethereum. Ethereum is the best place to launch projects because of all the liquidity that's inside of Ethereum. And you got stuff like Polygon building and whatever. So I think Ethereum is going to do fine. But Bitcoin does have the institutional support this time around, the institutional narrative, which is going to allow it to perform really well, despite the fact that Bitcoin's market cap is already high. We'll see. Are the institutions going to tame the price of Bitcoin? Is it going to become more boring? Is it going to become more controlled? A lot of people think that the Bitcoin, ETF news, BlackRock news means that we're just going to shoot to the moon. But really, institutions don't just like throw all their money in and pump the price. They probably want Bitcoin to come down, and then they're going to talk crap on Bitcoin when it's down, right? If Bitcoin comes back down from this pullback and it's low, companies are going to start pretending to have doubt, and then they're going to be accumulating. Just like Goldman Sachs talked crap on Bitcoin somewhere down here and then offered it to their customers up here. Same thing. Corporations, banks, they say Bitcoin is crap, and then they're going to offer it to their customers up here. That's always what they do. I'm kind of just going off the cuff here, guys. Smash the like button and subscribe to this channel. Yeah, another reason for today's dump could be the Evergrande news, because Bitcoin is tied to China. Evergrande, real estate giant, filing for bankruptcy, could have played a role, maybe. But again, I think that it's more so the stock market, as we explained in the video from 2 weeks ago. Yeah, guys, main message here is that in this moment in the cycle, even if we come down, it's just an accumulation point. But I'm going to end the stream now. We've been live for quite some time. How long have we been live, guys? I don't even know. Over an hour, definitely over an hour. But if you guys enjoyed this video, smash like, subscribe. And you can join my Patreon, my Discord channel. Prices are currently the lowest they've been in, since 2018, 2019 for my Patreon. $19 a month. If you do the yearly, it's $16 a month or less. And you can support the channel, get in my Discord. And when the bull market actually comes around and prices are way higher, you're going to have it at $19 a month. So it's up to you. It is a lifetime locked in price at $19 if you get in now for Patreon. You can get in my Discord. I'm in there all day. We do trade setups, altcoin picks. Of course, right now the altcoin market's pretty dead, so there's not going to be like altcoin picks right now. But once the market comes back, we're going to be doing a lot of altcoin picks. And also, yeah, just check out all the links below, guys. This channel is now sponsored by Kraken Pro, so definitely click that link and sign up if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the next live stream.